This episode is brought to you by Sable International, building futures beyond borders.
Welcome to the Relocated South African. As always, your host Jan Hugo from Lagos in Portugal. Today my guest is Kerry Deamer, a South African life coach who made the move to the UK, and he's talking to us from Kent, just outside London. Welcome, Kerry.
All right, thanks, Jan. Thank you. Nice to be on the show.
Lekker. I always start with asking where you're originally from, where'd you grow up, and how did you get to move to the UK?
Yeah, perfect. I'm born and bred in Kempton Park, right close to the old Jan Smuts and now Joburg International Airport. There, the whole life went to Norcombe Park Primary, Norcombe Park High School, which is one of the two English schools in the area. All my life was also at Kempton Park Cricket and Kempton Park Hockey Club. Grew up there, started there at 5 and played there to about 35, 36, was chairman of the cricket club for around about 8 years. And then made the move through to Scottsboro on the KwaZulu-Natal South Coast. Pretty much after a bit of a life-changing event, decided it was time to make a move and went to Scottsboro. Always been in transport, was working for a company, and then decided to make the move and buy a few trucks and start my own, which was 2007, and had that company until I left in 2019 to the UK. I think it was just I've always had the British passport, and we decided it's a good opportunity to give their kids a lot of theft going on in transport and life threats, and it was just breaking up one racket after the next, not really concentrating on work, and just made the decision to move to the UK. I mean, known to us, COVID was about to strike, so a bit of an unsettling time to make that move.
Wow, I can imagine. So living in Scottsboro, it's obviously close to the Transkei area. Was that where your transport business sort of focused countrywide? Did you was it a delivery service, or was it a big trucks?
Bulk tankers, mostly delivering hazardous chemicals, solvents, petrochemicals, mostly on the N3 to and from Johannesburg.
Okay.
With a few blue chip customers like Sasol and Sappi and a few others.
Oh wow! And were you the sole owner of this business?
Myself and my wife, correct. We were the owners of that company.
And Kerry, was there a moment, you say for the kids' sake and so forth, was there a moment where it just clicked and you said, okay, we got the passport, it's time to go? Or did it happen gradually?
It was an incident in early 2019, late 2018 with a crime syndicate. We were trying to break up with them, stealing product again. It was just continuous, but this time it just got a bit more threatening and a bit more personal than ever before. I think it was at that stage they started getting a few heavyweights in and just threatening you personally and your family, that it was we just decided to chuck the towel in.
Wow, Kerry. And I mean, just from a perspective, because this seems to be still going on in South Africa, and I don't want to dwell on it, but just the fact that it seems like people are unable to protect themselves against these gangs and mafias that are running all kinds of industries. Was that your experience? And it's
pretty much so, yeah. I mean, I'm not one to back down as well and just turn a blind eye. So, I mean, it was breaking down one, either fuel theft or tire theft or product theft, and the next one popping up. So it was setting chaps, getting on top of that, and then the next one comes. So it just, we had quite a number of Zimbabwean drivers. I'm not saying it was mostly but yeah, a lot of the theft was definitely happening through our Zimbabwean drivers, but there's South African drivers, and it was a syndicate, and the drivers got involved. maybe accidentally the first time, and they were also just sucked into this whole syndicate. It was something you could just never crack, and still going on, as you say.
And they have the cops in their pockets as well.
Cops in your pocket, and you can't really dismiss them. You try to dismiss them, and the unions get involved, and it's just ongoing. So eventually, I think you just get tired of the fight, to be open and honest.
And Kerry, how old were your kids at that point?
The youngest would have been 5, I think, and then the oldest was 13, I'd say, when we made the move.
Okay. And how traumatic was it for them to make this call to leave?
At first, didn't seem, but I think it definitely had effects on them. My oldest was in high school, enjoying it there, bit of boarding school life, and coming and trying to fit into the UK lifestyle. Bit different than the youngest, who hadn't started in South Africa, and then having to almost skip the first year when he came to the UK and start in year 2 because he was too old to have gone to year 1. So yeah, it was fairly traumatic.
When I moved to Portugal, I had no idea how much paperwork was involved. Police clearances, apostille certificates, unabridged documents. It can feel overwhelming. Apostille takes care of it all for you. They apply, follow up, and courier everything directly to your door, whether you are still in South Africa or already settled abroad. Click the link in the description below and let Apostille take it from there. Yeah, and I mean, at least from the point of view of you and your wife being on the same page, that was obviously important because you can't be arguing about a decision like that and make it successful.
No, I think we both had decided.
Okay. And did you guys have family abroad?
My dad's side of the family, but they've all passed on that, and he moved. So that was more Bristol based. My wife's side, brother is in the UK and in Kent, and that's why we chose Kent. And he's married with 2 daughters aside. So there's a bit of backup support in that. That's why we chose to come to Kent.
Okay. And did you leave a family behind in South Africa? Yeah,
the wife left a sister, her parents in South Africa, and I left brother and sister in South Africa.
Kerry, when you arrived, I mean, think back to when you arrived in the UK in 2019. Was it late 2019, just before COVID, or?
It was July, so early July, I'd say, when we arrived. So it was a fairly good summer that year. So originally, it just almost seemed holiday-like type for the kids anyway. Good long days and sun which they've never experienced before on those long days. So yeah, I think the first month was a bit of a holiday vibe, to be honest, month or 2.
Mm-hmm. And did you have employment in the UK at that point, or not?
I was still trying to sell the company, and we had an issue also with a tank which had gone the night. Actually, the first day I arrived in the UK, we had an incident. So I was going back and forth to South Africa originally to try and resolve that and get the company sold. So for about the first year, it was still working with the company and eventually getting a portion sold and selling off assets, those type of things. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, if you think about, again, your expectations versus the reality, people always talk about, you said that first month was like a holiday feeling, but almost that honeymoon period when you arrive and everything is new. Did it kind of live up to your expectations? Or being with a UK passport, you obviously had been to the UK before, but living there is
Only
always
briefly
different.
on holiday, Jan. We hadn't really spent a lot of time. I think we were here twice on holiday. It did for the beginning, I think. But once the honeymoon period was over, which maybe 5-6 months into it. Just lifestyle change, I think, started setting in a bit, and you just crack on with it. Still going back and forth a little bit with my company, with our company. The wife went back also once or twice. Got the kids into school, moved into our rental, which isn't too far from where we live now. Yeah, settled down, and then after about a year, got a job in the transport sector, and yeah, just really started getting into lifestyle. 2019 November, purchased a house, and obviously been through the first lockdown, and the second lockdown was just about to start, where 2019 December I was hit fairly hard with COVID and was hospitalized for a few days as well. And I think, yeah, pretty much that was a bit of an awakening, and starting to do homeschooling and all of that with the kids. It was yeah, very disruptive after just trying to settle in, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And how surprising were things like, cost of living and just coming from a South African environment? Because it must be very different. I think of us in Portugal, it's just lifestyle's different, people's different, everything's different, and you have to try and settle in.
Correct. I think lifestyle, I think from a grocery or going to stores and purchasing, we didn't find it too different, very much of a like on like. It was other, and going into lockdown, you couldn't do too much of it at that stage, but eating out, very, very expensive. Obviously 5-6 pints, or maybe back then 4 pints, 4 pounds of beer for a pint, fairly expensive. And just general going out and entertainment, and going to sports games, being a big cricket and rugby fan, going to sports games, that, yeah, very, very expensive, very different. Fees and that, subscriptions to sports clubs and that, much more expensive. As I say, on a day-to-day grocery thing, we didn't find it too different. It was more on the entertainment side, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I always get the impression when you speak to people in the UK and Europe, that people are a lot more, they're housebound in a way, but when they go out to a restaurant. They don't care in the garden, and like we used to do in South Africa, and organize a big barbecue and have lots of people around.
Correct. We care a lot still in the garden. Got a few good South African friends. One of mine has actually just returned. We were army mates together. He's returned to South Africa. But still got a good South African friend not too far away. We do a few braais together and all of that. But yeah, really haven't really made too many close UK friends. It's a different way, as you say, of living. Not really being invited to the house. More if you're going to meet up with someone, it's going to the pub and that. But yeah, we played, myself and my oldest have played cricket for a club close by, and yeah, you just struggle to make good friends, like you did in South Africa. I've had a few good friends that moved to Ireland, and over the last year, I moved to Ireland for about 11 months, still working for on and off an Irish company at the moment, while getting back into the UK and kicking off the coaching business. But it's you never the Irish are much more friendlier than the UK, but you really struggle to make friends in the UK, to be honest.
That's my impression as well. My kids live in Dublin, and they have so many friends. It's scary, a lot more than they've had in South Africa. But a lot of them are South African. But yeah, I think, I mean, that's an interesting thing. But when you guys arrived there, obviously pre-COVID, were you able to, you have your wife's family, but were you guys able to make friends with South Africans through South African Facebook groups and typical get-togethers of South Africans, or was that not really an option?
Yeah, it didn't really happen straight away. I think most probably me traveling back and forth to South Africa initially, and the place we were meant to move into wasn't ready, so we went off to Folkestone, which is not far from Dover. They supplied us a holiday rental for a month or so there, so it was a bit disruptive going back to different places before we eventually got the kids into school and moved into our rentals. So didn't quite meet up with too many South Africans. The wife's brother and that, and his family a bit, but yeah, we didn't quite get into any group straight away, put it that way.
Mm. And in South Africa, did you sell up everything when you left?
Not immediately. We had a few properties and that, which have all been sold up now, but it was a process.
Okay. And during that initial, post the honeymoon phase when things got a little bit tough, did you guys ever consider going back?
I don't think initially, Jan, but now we've all got the wife and the two kids have got their passports as well now. I think it's always in the mind now, to be honest. I think the weather's eventually gets to a few of us, and it's always in the back of the mind that you've got the option. But unfortunately, the wife's also got fairly ill of late, and fairly reliant on the NHS at the moment. So yeah, it's not a possibility. Definitely not for the next year in any case.
It's interesting that, quite a few people from the UK are heading back to South Africa. Guys are saying, when they've made some money and they can buy lifestyle in South Africa, maybe that is a possibility. But it's always difficult when you're looking over your shoulder thinking, if it doesn't work, I'll go back. Then, you will start looking at going, and then you're never happy where you are. So
No,
it is,
correct.
I can think it's a difficult thing. If you think about, that early, and we'll get to your maybe leading into the coaching story question, what did you personally find the hardest about moving to the UK?
I think it was just the interaction with friends and family. People you've grown, as I said earlier, grew up Kempton Park, and all my lifelong friends are still cricket hockey friends from Kempton Park Cricket or Kempton Park Hockey Club. And yeah, just not having the interaction with them, with your siblings, parents-in-law, those type of things. The move went relatively seamless. I mean, we moved provinces in South Africa, so I've never been a person who's feared change, but it was probably just the solitude, I'd say, that became the biggest for us all. And then as it's got longer and longer, I think the weather starts creeping into the mind as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can totally relate. And as you say, that solitude, that missing friends and family. I guess part of what we're trying to do with the podcast is to let people know that there's others that experience the same. The move from South Africa is not going from Joburg to Cape Town. It's a proper move, and it's very difficult to just hop on a plane and go back, and it's getting more and more expensive, and parents and people are getting older. So it's really, really tough. So the question, you said you've now gone more from the transport business, and you're getting involved in coaching and actually helping people. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so yeah, and pretty much when I moved back from Ireland late last year, quite a bit of time just to dwell on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and starting to think on life choices and where right decisions made. I started getting more drawn towards coaching and thinking, well, I'd like others to either assist others who's made the move to the UK or anywhere really, and feeling the same side of solitude and I mean, it's all a thought, isn't it? It's you can change your thoughts, and all of a sudden you change your experience, or capture people before they're making the move, and let them start thinking instead of just doing out of panic or out of a moment of frustration. Are they making the right move? Are you moving to the right country? Have you given it some decent thought? I mean, the entire experience may have been totally different if we had decided to attempt New Zealand, Australia, instead of going for the easier move where I had the passport, so the family could come across on pretty much on that. I mean, it's been a 5-year haul getting the others their passport, but so yeah, got accredited in life coaching on NLP and life coaching. Done the David Keys. Done studied a lot under the Tony Robinson. So just starting to set it up and get going with that now.
I mean, I think that's unbelievable, because I think there is such a need for that. I've spoken to a couple of psychologists and so on, and there's a couple of angles. The one is the parents and siblings that stay behind. People often don't think about them, but they suffer as much as the people who leave. Similarly, there's a lady in Australia that I spoke to who's done a book on caring for elderly parents back in South Africa when you're living abroad. Things like stupid things like doing banking and helping them because they can't do it themselves, but doing it from abroad is not easy. And just people generally kind of, I guess, the move not living up to expectations, and couples suffering and yeah, it's very tough. And then they go back and it's also not the solution,
It's not
So
the
I
same,
guess,
is it?
yeah. So I guess for me, I think it's wonderful, and I think there's a huge need for it, and I think there's definitely a niche, even if it's just allowing people to talk about it, because I think, especially South African men, ons praat nie. We don't like
That's probably
sharing. So I think that in itself, getting people to, to just open up about their struggles and knowing that they're not alone. So have you actually set it up and got going?
it is set up, and one or two customers, but yeah, just more local at this stage. So I haven't really still trying to get the attraction in of attract South African customers in. So the what's the right word in the market, the niche in the market I'm looking for hasn't quite kicked off yet, but I got no doubt it will kick off. It's just getting my name out there. And as you mentioned earlier, Jan, it's more conversation and just talking, guiding, talking, letting them unload their experiences on you, and then just pointing them in the right direction, hopefully, or letting them think, letting them just put their mind to it and just slow down a bit, and make decisions, but correct decisions instead of rash decisions.
And I think the beauty of where you're coming from is that you've been through the journey. You're not talking about, from a textbook. You're talking from a textbook and from personal experience. So I think
Correct.
that's critical. I would imagine, there's so many of these Facebook groups, South Africans living abroad and South Africans in the UK and so on. You must just get your name out there and you'll be surprised how many people will respond. I'm just looking at what's happening with the podcast and the responses I'm getting. So I'm positive, and hopefully this will also help to to get the word out there.
Thank you.
And in terms of you saying you want to focus specifically on South Africans, there's obviously a huge expat community in the UK, um, but you want your niche to be South African. Is that because you come from South Africa and know how it feels?
Yes, I mean I think you're part of that community and will always be part of that community. You trying to give your experience and advice to someone who's moving from Eastern Europe to the UK or somewhere else. It's a different tradition. It's a different different mindset. So, I mean, 100%, if there is someone and people I can help, 100% I'll get involved there. But I think it's just easier, and I can understand the struggles of South Africans.
Yeah. And I mean, from what you've seen, obviously it's early days, but even your own, what would you say are the biggest struggles that South Africans face after they've immigrated?
One of the biggest ones is leaving their loved ones behind, and struggling to make friendships, and deep friendships here in the UK. As you mentioned, there's a lot of, you can see that on the Facebook groups, you can see that the people you speak to. That South African friend of mine has just moved back. That was his biggest qualm the whole time. And speaking to him the other day, just his best move is done, moving back. Not possible for everyone, and costly though. So you do want to, and I don't think everyone moving back will have the same experience, and it's still early days, but you want to almost intervene from an early stage, and just make sure they're making the right decisions for the right reason.
Mm. Well, obviously that loneliness that you've spoken about, that's massive. Do you think people kind of feel like they've lost their identity when they leave South Africa? I mean, we always will be South African, but they don't really belong because, as you said, that the English are difficult to kind of become friends with them. It's just we're different. I see it here. We laugh at stuff that they just have no clue what we're talking about. The English that live here in Portugal.
I think you would, and I think you think the moves, the interaction's going to be much easier, but it's alarmingly different. Even work. I mean, work, you go in, you sit almost in confinement for your 9 hours just doing work, very little social interaction, and then hardly anyone else speaking to you. Maybe strike up the occasional little friendship, and but it's just it's a total different setup compared to South Africa, and I think things you don't really even consider. I think in your mind you're just going to think, oh, I'm going to get a job, and it's going to be same old, but it's definitely different. I've worked for a few different companies here, and my experience is all the same. It's just going in, doing your job, very little interaction, and just and going home. It's very little. South Africa's fun almost to work at times. It becomes part of your life, but here it's just a chore. You just get on, and I think that's also it deflates a lot of people quickly. They just don't get that stimulation. And I'm not saying everyone. I'm sure there's been a number of people that have, but it's definitely a culture shock.
I think that I call it career disappointment, that you go over with a good job and the salary, but the salary doesn't always make up for, one, the cost of living surprise, and then also that the job, as you say, is a chore. And South Africans are generally hardworking, and that what works in South Africa may not work in that market, so
Correct.
I can totally understand. Do you get the sense then, and you've mentioned people are going back, and I've certainly seen that as well. Do you think people often regret immigrating?
I think so, Jan. I think there's definitely a section that does as they wouldn't be going back. I've mentioned one who went, and we also had another friend early days at the local cricket club, Kempton Cricket Club, also South African. Him and his wife had moved over. She was a teacher, and she just never fitted in as well. Absolutely hated teaching in this country. Went back and back in KwaZulu-Natal and loving teaching again, and that. So I think it's just the expectations are not met, and again, I think it's done because of rash decisions. And I think it's you get fed up of South Africa, you get fed up of the battles continuously in South Africa, and you stop seeing the positives in the country, and make a rash decision, and you stuck with that, and huge bills for quite some time. Once you've made the decision, it's almost too late. or it is too late.
Well, I guess that's the thing. I mean, that's also what comes up a lot is this push or pull. You know, some people are pulled to another country because of a career opportunity. Others, you know, I've had people who said, you know, they've had a gun against their head and they're never going back, regardless. So, you know, but when it gets so bad on the other side that you start thinking, well, I'll even go back after that, you know, then it's late and it's a costly exercise to go back. That's also my impression is financially it's sometimes just not possible.
100% not. And then you start looking at other solutions, and maybe let's move to Spain or Portugal or those type. And again, are you making the decision for the right reason, or are you just desperately trying to get away from miserable weather, or find a positive out of a negative? And sometimes the only way in life to get out of a hole is to stop digging and just take account of where you are in life and how you got there, and just understand what needs to change to make change.
So if you think about that, what would you say are the wrong reasons for immigrating?
I think anything really made out of a rash decision, if you're just fed up with service, infrastructure, blackouts, power outs. Yeah, it's an inconvenience, but does it affect you that much? If you look back at it now, it's actually a minor distraction, most probably. Suppose everyone's got individual motives or their separate reasons and decisions, but I mean, I think crime. I think just the general frustrations of things not working. Um, you might think things are getting expensive in South Africa, but again, compared to the UK and other countries, it's still a relatively cheap country to live in. So it's I think everyone individually must just take a deep breath and ask themselves some deep questions. Are they moving for the right reason? The reasons that are aggravating them, are they real reasons? Or are you just could you handle it differently? If you change a few things, get solar panels, maybe move out of Johannesburg, move into the country, move to the Cape. Wouldn't that be a better decision than moving to the UK? And sometimes maybe moving to the UK is the right answer. Everyone's individual, and it's just, are you making the right decision?
I think you've answered my question because I was going to say, how should people decide? And I think what you're saying to me is don't make a rash decision. So when you decide, weigh up all the pros and cons, try and do as much due diligence as you can before you make that final call.
I think just get a quiet mind as well, Jan. Just if your mind's busy and frustrated and you're just negative, and you've really thrown in the towel, you're only seeing negatives, aren't you? And if you just quieten your mind and just get yourself positive, you're going to start seeing life a bit differently. And the decision might be the same, but at least you're doing it for the right reasons then.
I'm with you. Yeah. And Kerry, if say somebody has just arrived in the UK, what would you say to somebody who's saying, what can I do to make this transition easier? How can I make this whole move easier? What, thinking back to your experience, what would have made it easier for you?
I think timing would have made a big difference, but no one could really have foreseen COVID. But I think getting involved, Jan, if someone's just moved now, getting involved in sports clubs, in charity, in volunteering, getting involved in the community, and not expecting the British lifestyle to suit you. You've got to blend into the British lifestyle. As soon as you trying to create a mini South Africa on your doorstep, I think you're going to get let down. It's understanding the British culture. Yeah, you're going to have your South African friends. You're going to have a braai. You're going to be able to have a few dops around the fire, those type of things. But I think if you're trying to make local friends at the same time, you got to understand what makes them tick. They like getting outdoors as well, but they don't like entertaining in their house. Why? Houses are small, confined. The weather's gloomy. They'd rather go to the pub, go for a walk, meet at the pub, go for a walk, and end at the pub, have a beer or two, and go home. You don't get that same what's the right word, when you lakakaya and all of that you get in South Africa. You just it's different, and you've got to understand that as well. And you can't expect them to change for you. You've moved to the different country, and
I think that's very sound advice. We're getting towards the end. If I ask you, if somebody is listening to us and they're sitting on the fence now, should I not immigrate? What would you say to them? It's maybe an unfair question.
yeah, again, it's everyone's circumstance different. I mean, I go into them and just ask them the reasons for moving, and quickly you'd sum up if they move in purely out of aggravation and negativity and throwing in the towel. The problem, once you throw in the towel, eventually you're going to get up off the floor like a boxer and then want to start fighting back. And if you have thrown in the towel for the wrong reasons, you're going to regret it. I think you've got to be making choice for the right reasons. So just again, slow down your thought. Get some family members involved, friends involved that are still relatively positive. So don't go to your negative family or your negative friends. Just surround yourself with positive people, mentors, and just make sure you're making the decision for the right reason. Again, for some people, it's most probably the best decision out, and others the worst decision out. And everyone's motives, circumstances are different, but just make sure you're making it for the right reason, Jan.
Yeah. And if I listen to what you're saying, it almost sounds, and I'm not saying there's anecdotal evidence, but people who feel like they are pushed out are less likely to succeed than people who are going after an opportunity.
I think definitely. I think if you've come here just because you're fed up, you've probably looked back a few years after the move and almost see yourself a bit as maybe a loser. You've given up. You left compared to a person who's left out of for the right reasons, opportunities, getting the passport, whatever your reason is. That you've told yourself, just make sure the story you're telling yourself is true there. It's either true, it's not true, or you believe it's true. But make sure the story you're telling yourself is true. I think that's critical, Jan.
Excellent. Wow. Kerry, I mean, where can people get hold of you? You said to me you haven't set up a web page now, but maybe we can put your email address on the show notes. And
yeah, if you don't mind, please, the email address. Rather, they can email me, and then I can be in touch and forward on my website once it's set up.
Well, and what is your email address? I will put it in the notes.
The best one to use is kerrydeamer, as my name,
right,
at icloud.com.
Okay, and it's KerryDeamer.
Correct, yeah, at icloud.com.
Awesome. Kerry, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your journey and your perspectives. Man, it's not easy out there, and I think it's wonderful that you are prepared to help others, because I think there's a huge need. There's 1 million South Africans that are living abroad, and people are suffering. It's not easy. So thank you very much.
No, and thanks for your time, Jan.
And hopefully we can get your business going with some people. And I always say, if you help one person, you've already succeeded. So well done, and thank you for coming on the show.
No, and thanks for your positiveness on the show, and listening to some of your previous podcasts are really uplifting. So thank you for that.
One more thing before I let you go. If you need South African documents sorted from wherever you are in the world, Apostille handles the whole process for you. Click on the link in the description below. Awesome. And to our listeners, if this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might enjoy the conversation. You can find more episodes of the Relocated South African on your favorite platform or visit our website, therelocatedSouthAfrican.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.